Hello, and in this week's Technology Tuesdays we'll be talking about ScreenFlow. ScreenFlow is a nice piece of software that allows me to record everything that is projected on my computer screen. And basically I use it for two things here at the pool. To record whatever I present in class, so essentially lecture capture, and then to create pre-recorded material that I use in online or blended learning classes. The equipment that I use is fairly prosaic. I have a USB microphone, the Zoom H2 or a Blue Snowball, which is plugged into a laptop which uses either an external monitor or a projector. The projector obviously is for classroom live lecture use. The external monitor is for when I create stuff that's pre-recorded. My requirement here is I don't want to use a specialized room for recording. I want the ability to record on the fly. The reason I use an external monitor or projector is this allows me to extend the desktop. On my laptop display, I can see in Keynote or PowerPoint the slide I'm on, along with secret notes, any information that I've written for myself that I don't want to share with the larger audience. It also allows me to see what the next slide is, which makes presentations a little bit more professional. So what I'd like to do now is segue into actually showing you how I use ScreenFlow. So from start to finish, I'll show you how I use ScreenFlow to record a presentation, then take that recording, edit that, and then put that into a format that I can share with a larger audience. Okay, to begin, I open System Preferences, and there are a couple of changes that I start to make to my machine. I go into Displays, and because I'm using two displays, I make sure I have them configured as I would like them to be. So this is my primary display, the color LCD, so that's the laptop. And then over here I have my external display. What I'm doing is choosing a resolution which is a factor of 640 by 480. So that's the 1280-960. This means it's going to have the same relative dimensions that I want for my finished output file. So I set that up as so. I have my computer as well in such a way that I am not mirroring my display. I have an extended desktop, and you can see this here from the arrangement. I got two screens and mirrored displays is unchecked. So I have my monitors set up as I would like them to be. The next thing I want to do is to open up my Keynote or PowerPoint presentation. In Keynote there are a couple of changes that I would like to make so everything works perfectly. If I open up Preferences, what I will want to do is make some changes in Slideshow and then in Presenter Display. In Slideshow, I want to check these options here. Scale slides up to fit display, exit presentation after last slide, reduce cube transitions to avoid clipping, reduce flip transitions to avoid clipping. Down here, show pointer when the mouse moves, show playback controls when pointer is over a movie, and then to present on secondary display. This means that the presentation will be seen on the external display. Over here in presenter display, I want to check this option here. This is the most critical. This says my alternate display is used for viewing presenter information. So this means on my laptop I will see the current slide, the upcoming slide, and any notes that I've left to myself. So below that I want to check pretty much everything. I'm showing the current slide, build markers, the next slide, notes, clock, timer, and my timer is showing elapsed time. So that being said, I'm ready to go and I can start to make my presentation. If I click on play, my presentation will show up on the external display. So what you're seeing here is my current display. This is where I have my notes. So I can see my secret notes down here, I can see my current slide, and then I can start to cycle through the presentations as normal. My audience is seeing something slightly different. They're seeing these slides here. Okay, so my next action is to open ScreenFlow and choose New Recording. This will bring up this little screen here, and there's a couple of changes I want to make. The first one is I'm recording desktop from my external display, so not from the laptop, from the projector or the external monitor. I'm going to record video, so here we have the talking head coming through, and ideally I position that in such a way that I'm centered. Now, light conditions in this room are not perfect. Hopefully your environment is a little bit more conducive to filming than what I'm using today. You'll be recording from an external microphone, and once you're happy with all of that, you can click on record. You'll see a countdown timer appear on the external display, and then you can present your presentation. And when you're happy with everything, when everything is as it should be, all you need to do is to click on Stop Record for ScreenFlow. And in my situation here, I'm adding this to an existing document because I have an open ScreenFlow file at the moment. We now have a recording in ScreenFlow, so let's do some basic editing. To begin with, we want to ensure that our canvas is the appropriate resolution. Now, I'm lucky here. I have a canvas which is 1280 by 960, and that is a factor of 640 by 480. If that wasn't the case, if I had a different value there, what I could do is change those values to 640 by 480, and then apply that change. So now we have a slightly different resolution, and you'll notice that the videos that we have are larger than the canvas. Now, resizing and moving is not an issue. I just need to click on a particular item, and then using the scroll button on my mouse or scale to the side of the screen, I can make things the appropriate size. So now my video is centered within the screen. I'm going to change view to, actually I'll change view in a second. I'm just going to move this over here. I'm going to change view to 100%, and I'm going to resize my screen recording so it fills the entirety of the screen. The second thing is I'm going to move the eyesight video, which filmed me, over here and make that a smaller size. So this means now that my output video will be of the dimensions that I want. Ideally it's designed to fit on iPods and sort of mobile devices, but also to fit quite readily on a computer screen. Now, I've got some material at the start of my recording that I don't need. Essentially it's sort of dead air and unnecessary stuff. This is basically where my presentation starts. You can see the screens changing. So all I need to do is move my scrubber, which is the red line, to that appropriate place in the recording, and then select both recordings down in the timeline here, so they're both highlighted in yellow. And then if I choose Edit, Trim Front to Scrubber, I have now trimmed that recording. So I can slide this over like blocks of ice to the left of the screen, and I can repeat that procedure at the end of the recording. We can see here the screen is going black, the presentation is over. I can trim that. If I'm worried about getting the trimming exactly right, I can zoom in. So over here, I can zoom into the picture, And let's make sure we're switching off things exactly where I want them to be. So I've moved my scrubber to the appropriate point. I can click on Edit, Trim End to Scrubber, and now we have trimmed video. It is exactly what I want to share, but there's a couple of other changes that I'd like to make. Now, I recorded myself in such a way that there's video and audio simultaneously. Now, as the presentation continues, my video gets in the way. It's covering important material. So what I can do is I can fade that out. So if we look at this position in the recording, that's where we're starting to move into that important material. So what I can do is move my scrubber to a point where I want to make a transition, and I can zoom in, and then over here, providing I select the appropriate video within my timeline, you can see here I'm changing between those two states. This one I'm selecting the video here, that's highlighted in yellow. I can click on Add Video Action, and basically this is transition. I can extend the length of the video action, and I can move it around the screen. To the left of the video action, this is a particular state. To the right of the video action, this is a particular state, and at the moment those two states are identical. But over here on the right, what I can do is change my scale value to 0, which shrinks that video down, and I can change the opacity of that to 0. So what we have now is when I press play, you can see that I have shrunk out of the way and I'm no longer obscuring the content that I want to share. If I wanted to, I could make myself reappear at the end of the video. Similar process, I can click on Add Video Action, which has created that transitional stage. I can change the duration of that, and then over here to the right, I can increase the scale back to appropriate dimensions, and then change the opacity to 100%. So here I'm appearing at the end of my presentation, and I can say farewell to everyone who's listening to me. And at this point, I think I'm pretty much done. This is enough for me to edit a basic recording. What I would do next in ScreenFlow would be to save this recording. So if I click on File, Save, choose an appropriate place to put this. So in my example here, I'm going to put this on the desktop. And I'm going to call this Example 2. And actually what I should have done earlier is save that file before I started editing. ScreenFlow doesn't have the ability to auto-save, so save on a regular basis. And then to share the material, I would click on File, Export, and I would choose between two formats. If I want to leave a legacy file, an archive file, I'm probably best off using QuickTime, the .mov format. If I want to share something with my students through iTunes U, then I would choose down here iPod as the format that I want to share. I make sure that the size is 640 by 480, which I can choose in two methods here. Click on Motion Blur and then click on Export. And what that will do then is crunch this file. It will turn this into an M4V file that I can export to my audience. If I wanted a streaming media file, then I would choose QuickTime.mov as my format. I could then give that MOV file to an IDD consultant here at DePaul who would convert that to Uyala.